for the city is item B right here, where it basically says any resident or property owner within the city or county, as the case may bring an action or proceeding in Superior Court to enforce compliance with subdivision, which means that somebody can come to the city and see that our zoning ordinance is not consistent with our general plan, and they can bring action against the city to make our zoning ordinance be consistent with the general plan. So that's why this process is being done. At our regular plan commission, well, let me back up a little bit. As part of the general plan process, it's through the general plan committee and through the planning commission and city council, it was a direction that we create some different zone districts, commercial zone districts, instead of the one big one, so that we can break up the community, maybe come up with different design features for different areas of the town, and those three areas were to create an historical district, which we already have, but a historical commercial zoning, also the central commercial area here, as well as a bigger shopping center, or I'll just call it for better purposes, a shopping center commercial zone district that would allow for larger retail, larger hotels, and larger type of commercial projects. So with that, at our regular Planning Commission meeting on the 14th, the first one was September 10th, the Planning Commission approved the resolution of intent to allow for this zone change. And at the regular Planning Commission on December 10th, staff presented the staff report outlining the parcels that were slated. I included in your attachment all of the parcels. It's also on the draft ordinance, but I also included them outside of that, outlining all the parcels that will be rezoned from their original zoning to their new zoning. At that meeting at December 10th, two residents voiced their opposition. The two residents were Robert Lee, which is the owner of these two parcels right here, and we had an owner regarding the parcel on the corner, the southwest corner of the intersection of Highway 4 and 49. I've included those comments and the letters from the residents and the family from that meeting. At the second meeting at the Planning Commission, because the Planning Commission continued this item, and at the January Planning Commission, I presented again the staff report. There was another letter written from Mr. Dennis Lee, again regarding these two parcels in the rezone. I've included that letter as well in your packets tonight. And just to kind of put it in perspective, there are approximately 116 parcels that are to be rezoned. In most cases, all the existing uses that are in that district are compatible with that zone district, i.e. the banks, the small retail outlets, the office buildings, the home business, not home businesses, the businesses that are in the houses, those are considered business properties. They are consistent. So most of the properties most of the businesses that are along this corridor are in compliance with the CC zone district, and it can operate freely as they would if they were in the SC zone district right now. There are the two residential parcels, like these two parcels, even though they're zoned, this was the recommendation. These two, if they were to remain, they would become, if the council were to change those to commercial parcels, those parcels would be what we call legal non-conforming uses, which means the residents can live in the house as they have been the last however long they have. They can sell the property as residential properties to other people. Where it becomes an issue is if they want to expand the footprint of the building, as well as if they add accessory structures, which would then have to be built to commercial standards instead of residential standards. So those are the downfalls of those parcels remaining residential in a commercial zone district. Okay, the property can be sold as a commercial if they decide to sell it as a commercial property. Of course, then they would be legal conforming uses as commercial properties as well, depending on the use. So that's kind of that's the area of concern regarding the two residential pieces. The concern regarding the piece in the intersection is that the parcels as they sit right now, there's about 4 parcels, and they're all about 2.5, maybe a little bigger, they're all about 4.5, 5 acres. Developing them by themselves would be considered a use, would be considered an appropriate use. However, once you start putting those parcels together and start making 10, 12, 15 acres, larger developments would be, that's where there would be an issue with the city at that point. But the city would, with all that, in terms of the development, would come before the planning commission, come before the city council, and move forward, and make sure that the use is consistent with the zoning. Okay? And then staff would identify that as part of the staff report. Because right now, these parcels are vacant. They have small businesses on them, and a couple of them are vacant right now. So there could be some issues depending on the size and if they regroup all 4 parcels together. I wanted to point out as well, if the council decides that if any of these parcels, any of the 116 are not to be rezoned, then staff would recommend that you initiate a general plan amendment to return those parcels back to the zoning, back to the land use designation that would be consistent with that zoning. You could do that. Okay, that if you want to do. That's what staff is not recommending. That staff is recommending that you approve all of the 116 parcels as to central commercial zone districts. But there are alternatives that if the council chooses to use, we would then set up a new course of action based on that decision. So with all of that, staff is recommending that the city council will, that when we get to the next step, that there's no action tonight, so that recommendation really is null and void, because this is mainly just open up to the public. If you have any questions, further questions, to answer, and of course we can take public comment.
Have you had any questions from the people that give notice to about the definition of CC versus SC designation?
Yeah.
Do you have a definition?
Well, the definition, yeah, I mean, the definition for shopping center, the way our development, our zoning ordinance is right now, is the CC zone district and the SC zone district, in terms of development standards, in terms of uses and permitted uses, are very similar. I mean, they're almost identical, except for you can't have a medical cannabis dispensary in a CC zone district. And you can't have, I think there's like a flea market, I don't think you can have in a CC district. But other than that, currently the uses that are permitted and are conditional are pretty much very similar. So now that might change in the future.
But you do have if someone asks you a question,
oh, yeah.
you have a definition established.
Yes, we do. And that was established by ordinance.
And can the public see that easily on our website?
Yeah, it's all part of the municipal code, and they just go to Title 17, which is the zoning chapter, and you can find all the uses and all the definitions and everything.
David, I have a question with regards to a letter from one of the owners dated 1/12. In the second page, in the middle of the page, is a paragraph that mentions a meeting with Tim Shear, the city administrator, that a change was made in zoning. Do we have a record of that anywhere?
I don't have a record of the zone, because a rezone would have to be approved by an ordinance, and I have not found any ordinances that changed the zoning from whatever it was to R3.
Well, and I recognize that, but I have to ask because it's part of the record in here, and so this party is making a comment that there was a potential agreement with the city that, which couldn't have happened because it didn't have the authority to do so, but you don't have any record of that?
I don't know. Of a rezone, no, I don't have any record of a rezone.
Or any reference to this particular meeting anywhere in the records?
No. I mean, they might have. I mean, this was probably done in what, 03 or 01? Yeah. So that was. I have no. I would assume Mr. Lee is telling the truth.
I just have a clarification. What's the present zoning on those 2 lots?
R3.
Okay, that's what it says. It is residential.
Yeah, the current zoning, now, I don't know what it was changed from that, but it was, they're zoned R3 currently.
And it says that they were changed back to residential,
Yeah, I don't know when
and they are zoned residential right now.
right.
And that's what the record showed, what's that?
Where's the record of it?
Well, I mean, I haven't found any ordinances that has changed, I haven't found any ordinances in terms of the rezones of these parcels. We do know that the general plan land use designations were all commercial through that area. I just don't find any of the record of it being rezoned.
But show you a
And then
map,
being-
show you a map, it shows it as being residential.
Yeah,
There they are,
yeah, that,
they're residential
right,
on that map.
right. But I don't know, but when the plan was adopted in
So there's
1990.
confusion,
Well, that's what I'm trying to clear up.
Well, in 1995, there was, when the general plan was changed, all of this area in red, including these two parcels, had a land use designation of commercial. Now, they had to have had some type of rezone that rezoned all of these to commercial in 95 or 96. I haven't found that. And they're saying that it changed back. I haven't found that either, of when it was changed back. So I don't know if it wasn't rezoned back in 95 as original, and I don't have anything that says that it was rezoned back to residential in 01. I'm just assuming that it's always been R3, based on me not being able to find anything. And until I find something in the record that stipulates this, I really can't. I'm just assuming as a planner that is R3 and that's what it was.
And we're just preparing to be able to make a decision based on some clarity, and so,
Right.
we really, what I'm hearing is it's muddled.
Well,
You're making some assumptions, I mean, they may be accurate, and they may not be, but it's
Well,
based on assumptions.
Well, even if it is, no matter what it is, we would be rezoning it to CC. That would make it consistent with the general plan.
No, I understand that, it's
Oh,
just,
okay.
we're having to make some very difficult decisions, and so in order to make do our due diligence, we
Right.
have to have some clarity.
Oh, yeah.
And in the planning and zoning, it's not something you can do on a napkin and throw it away.
No.
This requires records of, maintained records in order to prove what you're trying to say, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Question.
Mr. Lee and Miss Lee are here, they may be able
Any other questions?
to, nothing for David. They may
Okay.
be able to clear up some of those.
Let's open up for any public comment. Now, this will be the first of 3 meetings on this, because already we have items in here that.
I've already been to a couple.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's not my fault you guys ain't got the records and can't look it up. Where's the 1995 map? I think that's not here.
Well, this represents what was done in 1995. This zoning map, what I'm
It says
proposing.
2009 and 1995, you just said that there was residential lots and zone commercial.
No, what I'm saying is that I can't find that they were zoned commercial. So what I'm
Right.
saying is that, what I'm trying to say is that when they went through and rezoned these and made this area consistent with the general plan map, which in 1995, this was all red. So what happened was either these two parcels did not they didn't get rezoned to commercial.
You're mistaken. I mean, were you here in 1995? I mean, here's the deal.
Okay.
I took out a building permit. Me and my grandmother did a property line adjustment for these two parcels, separated 1 to 2, and the point that I tried to pull the building permit to build a house on the one parcel, and I don't know if you need the exact number on there. I think
It's the back one.
it's the back one.
That's 3-3.
Yeah, 033. We were informed that mysteriously, those two particular parcels, which are the third lot, and mine is actually could be the 4th lot, depending on what you want to how you want to look on the encroachment. We're zoned commercial, therefore building a residential house was, not acceptable. I guess I could have built a Burger King or McDonald's or something, but not a house. So at that point, I decided to, like I said in my letter, set up a meeting with Tim Shear. He said that there was some mistakes or whatever that had happened, and the same thing as what he's saying. He said he didn't know how it got changed to residential or commercial. Blah blah blah, in and out, whatever, same sort of Mickey Mouse thing, and that it would be changed back to residential the way it was because there was no proper notification to my grandmother. She had no idea. There was no letter sent, as there was here. We received the letters and what have you, and she wasn't notified. Long story short, changed back to residential, issued a building permit, built the house. Okay, that was in 2001. You can go to the building department, pull the records. I have copies of the plans. I have copies of the building permit issuance. They're all in 2001, and it's now 2010 now. And all of a sudden, we want to change it back. I mean, it's not my intention to want to redo my residential property and my grandmother's, who's passed away, but I was speaking on behalf of the family that owns it, because I'm one of them, to change it to commercial because it devalues your property. As far as if I don't have a garage, for example, if I was to build a garage, what am I supposed to do? Put in fire sprinklers, handicap ramps, and who knows what. And another thing is Mr. Hanham here wants to say that I'm inconsistent with the other parcels in the area, but we're not. The parcels in my area are undeveloped. I mean, the one in the back that goes down, well, that's the wrong map there, but the parcels that go down into the back are undeveloped. They're vacant, landlocked properties. I'm developed. I have a house on this property. My grandmother has a house on her property, and to say that in my mind they're inconsistent with us. And normally, what came up in the previous discussion in 2001 was that the general plan was to do 2 lots back from the main street, Highway 49, or well, it was 449 then. I guess it's just 49 now. And if you look at the map, that one particular area, all of a sudden we want to go 3 lots back. And mine, for example, is a 4th lot back. And it's just, that particular area is inconsistent with the rest of this stuff. And as far as, I'm just saying that, as far as me being inconsistent with everybody else, that's wrong. I mean, this particular area is inconsistent with the rest of the areas in Angels Camp. And you have my letters. I've signed them. My grandmother signed the first one. She's no longer around. But like I said, I believe that these other parcels are inconsistent with us. We're developed. They're not. I want to build a garage someday, possibly a swimming pool. I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean, you got fire flow issues. You got handicap issues. You got, he says you can get a variance. Well, say I do the garage in 7 years. I come up here and apply for a variance. He's gone, you're gone. I got to go to a whole different set of people and prove my case. I'm here to stop it now because of the fact that it's residential. It got changed in 2001, and 9 years later, I want to keep it that way forever. I've lived here my whole life. My family has, and that's just the way that it is.
Thank you.
Michelle Lee. I just wanted to make a statement that if these 2 parcels are changed to commercial, there will never ever be anything commercial down there. So there's no sense in changing it to begin with. Lee Lane is barely a one-way street. The access is horrible. getting in and out of there with the high school there and a parking lot right next to it. The street is very small. You would not be able to have a business down there, the access. The street is only public half the way. It's a cul-de-sac at the end. The 4 other homes at the end of the street that are on the private road, they don't want a bunch of commercial people driving around trying to figure out where they're going. It doesn't work. It's too small of an area. There's no other entrance to this area besides from Lee Lane. And it's just simply too small of a road.
Any other public comment? If there is none, we'll have to then continue this based on your recommendation to a formal meeting, which would then be waiving. Yes, sir.
I got
Yeah.
I guess you can look at the minutes of the planning commission meeting.
Yes, we have them here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was under the impression that that these lots were gonna be left to the way they,
We
that's the
have
way
a
they were,
motion.
okay. The next thing is, well, I guess that's what I wanted to say. I can't think
Okay.
what else. I forgot.
That's all right.
Thank you, Robert.
You know, we all have sensitivity to these issues, and in our workshop, we talked specifically about change in zoning, and it's very, very personal and can become very emotional. So the council members all are aware of it and sensitive to it. And any other, David?
Well, I just wanted to tell Mr. Lee that the planning commission recommended to the city council to leave your parcels, to rezone all the other 114 parcels to CC, to leave your parcels as residential. So it was recommended to the city council.
Then I must have misunderstood your statement earlier because it sounded that they were included, so that's cool.
2 different recommendations.
There were two different recommendations.
Okay.
One to leave it as is and one to change it, I mean, and you did both recommendations?
No, the planning commission,
I don't understand.
no, the planning commission did the recommendation to recommend approval of 114 lots, and staff is recommending that we rezone all 116
And
lots.
use the staff.
That would be-
You-
Okay, we-
That's what I thought.
Okay.
One other public comment. Please come
Yeah.
forward, sir.
That's Gary Hinman.
Yeah.
Hi, Gary Hinman. I own the property in front of the lease. And what my question is you say they're very similar, and there's only being able to sell cannabis or something else being different between SC and CC. Why are you changing it?
Because based on the recommendations of the council, those zone districts will change in terms of the use, the development standards in each of those zone districts. The city is working on a large format retail ordinance that will only affect the SC, and they will also be looking at the CC so that there's some differentiation between the central commercial and the service commercial zone districts.
Yeah, okay, so you're asking us to change the zones, or you go along with zones, without knowing what the rules will be, for lack of a better word, or ordinances that will go along from the differentiation between SC and CC.
No, the general plan is driving that. The zoning doesn't drive the general plan. The general plan drives the zoning.
I understand
And
that.
so by doing that, by the land use map being that those properties are all designated central commercial, the shopping center commercial that currently exists with those zone districts, as well as the R3, are inconsistent with the general plan land use designations. So the recommendation is to make these red properties consistent, and the orange in these properties within this area consistent with the general plan land use that was approved in February of 2009. That's the purpose.
Okay, well, my understanding, I guess I misinterpreted the letters in 2009, and I assumed that they were going to be the same. Somewhere I missed the fact that there was going to be the CC made in there rather than the SC, because I remember looking at the letter and looking at, well, all these are going to be the same, so therefore there's basically no change, and then I misinterpreted. But I'm still going to ask that, and I guess I better put it in a letter form, that they change from, you're actually doing it in pieces rather than being upfront about it, what the rules are going to be for the differentiation between SC and CC. At least to me right now, I don't see what the difference is between the two are going to be. And I would ask the council to look at that and make sure that they understand the specific differences so that the public or the owners of the property know what that difference is in in what you're going to do. If you can't do it right now and you're planning on doing other things later on, then maybe you should hold off on this change until you have those designations. That would be my recommendation.
One of the questions that, to respond to that, one of the questions that I asked early on, is there a specific definition for SC and CC? And are you receiving, is he receiving any questions about the
You've got one.
definition of
So you got more
CC
than that.
versus SC? And he indicated not particularly, but now he has one. Can you refer, Mr. Hinman, to,
Yeah, I can give him the, it's,
why don't you give him the information so he can start to look at it, so he can
I can
help
do
him
that.
on his, get something framed in his letter?
Not a problem.
Okay, can you do that?
Yeah, yeah, you can come in the office.
Sure, I know right where he is,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
no problem. It's just that this was the thing, I found it kind of strange, and that's why I came for informational purposes to tonight's meeting.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Questions, public comment? I'd like to ask that at the next meeting that we do have clarification and hopefully have more research time to find out what Craig has talked about on that letter of January 10th from Mr. Lee, in the second page, what paragraph starting off in 2001. And the fact that we look at one of these maps and it shows residential, and it also make reference to the county records in terms of what the county records, how they call it out, because they do have land use designations on property in the city. Not necessarily they're always accurate and precise and correct, but at least we need some, the council needs some, and the public needs some backup information there. Any other suggestions? Not, we'll conclude this one, and when will the next meeting be?
It'll be in 2 weeks.
It'll be on March,
That's another open.
and that will be then waived.
But we're still doing the session that night?
The council will at that point waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance. In which case, then the public hearing would happen, was it 2 meetings later?
From monthly.
Yeah, 2 meetings later.
Okay.
So we're not
You hear all
going to
that?
be moving on this for a
Did you
month
hear
and
all
a
that?
half.
Yeah, you take it.
Well, you'll be getting the next action at the next meeting to waive and introduce and take public comment, and then at the meeting, the second would probably be the second meeting in April.
That's when we'll actually accept or reject
The
the,
order.
that's what I meant. So
Yeah.
it's really a month and a half before we're going to be making a decision on this.
Okay. Let's move then to item number 11, which is a public hearing on ordinance 439. And in the next several items, 1, 2, 3, 4 items are all on ordinances having to do with changes. So depending on what you're interested in, we're gonna be talking about changes in adopting ordinances. This is a public hearing, and turn it over to David Hannum on ordinance 439.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight before you is the second reading and adoption for the amendment of Title 17, Chapter 09, which is the definitions section of the zoning ordinance. Staff is recommending that you approve the second reading and adopt the ordinance for number 439 to add the definitions to the zoning ordinance.
Questions for David? Open up for,
Hold on, I'm just trying to find the question, yeah, real quick. Did I miss, I know, I see we have golden plate in the back there, and I have concern, like, to add the low profile antenna, and I don't know, I think, generally you're being blocked back there, I'm not trying to pick on you there, but I wanted to make sure we got this in for any future wireless. And right now, the definition reads a low profile antenna, so I mean any antenna less than 36 inches in height. The concern was making sure that you were covered, or not just you, but cellular folks were covered if we did something downtown. And so, does that satisfy what we're looking for?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And I guess just the other comment, just to reiterate, the real estate office, that was big for me because of what happened a couple of years ago, so that's in there. I thank you for putting that in there. But now we know what a real estate office is, because we didn't know before.
Didn't know.
It's not a problem.
okay, public comment. Let's open it up for official public hearing. Bona fide. Okay, here comes the public.
Hi, Stephanie Brierton, 91st Street. Under wireless communication facility, I'm still, number 2 says wireless communication facility major. A major wireless communication facility includes all wireless communication facilities not clearly set forth and included in the definition of wireless communications facility minor. I guess I don't feel the wireless communications facility minor is a real good definition on those either, because I could make arguments pro and con on just about every one of those bullet points to make a minor communication facility out of pretty much anything.
In terms of the definition, it's more of the definition, it's not necessarily the use. I mean, the use would be dictated as part of the zone districts, that these would, so whether it's declared a minor or a major, wouldn't necessarily, it's just, that's what the definition is, and it's gonna be determined on where the use is. You know, are they gonna be allowed in CC zone districts, are they gonna be allowed in historical districts, I guess is the, so I'm not sure what.
So what are you suggesting that the definition should be changed to, or do you have a recommendation?
Well, I just pulled this out this evening to look at it. But my next question actually would be in the next agenda item as to what's the difference between a single-family residential, a specific plan single-family residential, and a planned development single-family residential. I don't understand what the difference between those different types of zoning, and they're for each type of, I mean, you've got residential, there's specific plans and planned developments for many of them as well, so I'm not sure where that would fall in to, again, going back to anything else in the definition.
Well, I think we have to clarify the definition first, and then we can explain if those things will fit in those zone applications, correct?
Okay, so if a cellular site is put on a property, and that cellular site is serving emergency services people, is that a major wireless facility or a minor wireless facility? Because in my mind, if it's serving emergency services and it's serving the good of the community, that should be an allowed thing. Am I making any sense?
Well, no, I understand what you're trying, you're trying to make sure that any type of use of cellular are allowed within those zone districts. And those zone districts haven't been determined at this point. We haven't gotten that far. And so, whether or not, I think, in terms of when we start discussing about the development of the zone districts, then those type of discussions need to be had. Because at that point, then, I mean, if you're not comfortable with the wireless communication facility and what is, how that is defined, not necessarily in its use, but what it is, that's what we're trying to define. Yeah, it's just a standard definition. So, I just want to make sure that we understand that, there's going to be issues, there will be, because I don't think in our current ordinance, and I don't have it with me, where wireless facilities are even allowed. I mean, I think most of them are industrial zones.
Not allowed in residential.
Yeah, they're not allowed in residential zones at all. So, I mean, I think that's the next step. But if you don't think that these definitions meet what wireless communication facilities are, then I think, if you have any input on that, I think that would be.
I don't know, and this is completely a personal, ignore the blue shirt for the moment.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
To me, a 20-foot tall ham radio antenna is a whole lot more of an eyesore than a 2-foot tall antenna that pretty much blends with the landscape. And so for a CB or a amateur radio antenna to be listed as minor because it's being used by a single person, I guess to me that doesn't go back to the eyesore that was one of the things that was brought up in the wireless a year or so ago when it was being looked at by the council and planning commission.
Well, it is an interesting comment because it says not to exceed 70 feet.
Right, so I could put a 70-foot tall pole in my backyard to use as amateur radio,
Exactly.
which my son has expressed a bit of an interest in doing ham radio and such, but I could do that under all of the rules and be totally within my rights.
That's within the land use district. That's not what it's called. So by right, in terms of your zone district,
Confusing usage and definition.
So if a wireless communication facility minor, if you're saying that, because I don't even see including any masts, maybe we need to put a sign, maybe we need to put a size on the mast. But as of right now, we're just trying to identify what a minor wireless communication facility is, what is a major, and then at which point, then we go to the next step and say, where can you use it?
Okay.
I think that's the next step. But we've got to be able to define these things, and so that when you bring them as projects to the city, and as you want to put a pole in your downtown, we can go back to the definition and say, what is a wireless? How do we define a minor wireless facility, and is that allowed in an R1 zone district or an R2 zone district?
The definitions become part of the findings when it actually
Right.
gets there.
Yeah, definitions become part of that.
And but it does read a little, it's not really clear here. I mean, just talking about the definition, forget about where the application can work. I mean, you do have listed as minor the 70-foot mast.
No, it just says any mast.
Well, no, it says 70 foot, not to exceed 70 feet.
That's under paragraph C.
I mean, so, yeah.
Antennas and communications used by government agency, public utilities, or other public for emergency response.
Right, so those are that's for emergency response. So if you own a ham radio.
That's on the other page, that's on.
Yeah, no, I have it right here. Yeah, so I mean, so it does identify who, in that case, it does say for antennas and other communications used by government agencies and those types of things. So, because government agencies could use a bigger.
And they have multiple trains on it.
Right.
So they have to be that way.
So, I mean, that's,
All right, any other
I hope that answers
clarifications
your
or
question.
questions?
does that answer your question, or?
Kind of,
Okay.
I'll have to, yeah. You should.
John, are you coming forward?
Yes, for like 20 seconds, it was just as a question.
Please come to the microphone, John, so we get it on the.
Yeah,
on
we
the-
get it on time.
John Hamilton, and just a question, is in most major metropolitan areas, most apartment buildings and things like that sprout various antennas all over anyway. I mean, as far, and they would be in a residential areas, and some of this, I mean,
Well, I mean, those, like I said, this is defining what they are. I mean, we do have, facilities that install in conjunction with provisions of wireless internet services that don't exceed height limitations of the district. So, I mean, the definitions are defining what these minor and major
right,
facilities are.
yeah.
This has nothing to do whether or not you bring a project in and it's allowed in a house or an apartment or that becomes the next step. So this is just defining those things, what those things are, and then when it comes back to the commission of councils for projects, then at that point, the definition and the use would then be defined.
Okay, I guess the question was, why can't there just be a height limitation without the various, degrees in there? I guess that's,
Well, that would be defined in the zone district.
okay.
Yeah, not necessarily the apparatus.
Okay.
Right.
Any other public comment? Otherwise, we'll bring it up here for any final questions or discussion.
I need to say something, please. I'd like to say something.
All right.
Couldn't stand it, could we?
Darrell Slocum, 248 Eldorado Court in Just Camp. I don't know about the rest of the audience, but I'm perplexed by all that definitions, this, that, and the other thing. What I like to say is that cellular technology has come a long way. In the days of 200-foot cell towers, while there are some that still exist, for the most part, those days are gone. And the impression that I think we get is that the ordinance is written around those type of structures. That's not what we're advocating. We have a cell site at the Prudential Building that's on the corner of 4 and 49. Most people don't know it. That's the kind of technology that we employ nowadays. We want to put a site downtown. We want to improve communications downtown. We want to help the downtown merchants by bringing business into the area, because the fact is today, people make decisions on where to shop, where to recreate, based on the availability of technology. We're trying to solve the problem, not just for our customers, but for emergency responders, citizens at large. So if there's some way that we could have a better understanding of these definitions and ordinances, we'd love to help out by putting a cell site downtown. Thank you very much.
Excuse me for not getting up, my leg's messed up.
Yeah.
The issue that's coming
Could
up.
you identify yourself?
Gary Coletta, Chair of the Planning Commission. When this issue came up, the Planning Commission recommended and even showed areas where an antenna could be downtown because of the problem. The problem with it being in an R1 area was the apparatus that goes with it, the fans that cool the apparatus, the temperatures they reach by your own specifications. That's what that actually happened. We suggested putting an antenna downtown because we have false fronts. You could put an antenna up and nobody would see it.
So the
May I
definition
respond to that?
isn't regulating the use. The regulation, the definition is not regulating the use. The zone district would regulate the use. We're not saying that you can't put these things up. What we're saying is that a minor wireless communication facility is one, a ground or structure mounted radio, television, or satellite dish antenna. 2, a ground mounted citizens band radio antenna, including any mast limited to 20. That's what we're defining it as. If they have different definitions of the equipment that they're using, they want to include in this, as equipment, then by all means, let's do that. But it doesn't mean that because it's not listed, it's here,
Okay.
that it's not allowed in
We've got another few more minutes, and then we're gonna have to move it, because we still have a long agenda. Yes, sir.
I'm concerned by this gentleman's comments. We brought in equipment to show that the sound that would emanate from our structure was lower than what an air conditioning unit would emanate from an air conditioning unit. The antenna is less than what a satellite dish would be. And as far as putting the cell site somewhere else, there's a lot that goes into where a cell site needs to be placed in order to get the maximum amount of coverage.
Can I ask one question? Okay. Is your antenna less than 20 feet?
Yes, it is.
Well, then it would be qualified as a minor wireless communication facility. And that's,
So the application that Darrell's referring to is when we get into the zoning applications.
yeah.
So his equipment fits this,
Yeah.
it fits these things. It's just a little confusing when you read major.
Where you put it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's confusing just for the definition,
Right.
minor, major, because it's in the separate. So it sounds like his equipment would fit in this.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it fits within this, whether it's a minor or a major, yeah. I mean, that's, or,
So
you
then
know.
our application was rejected because,
You can't have it in an R1.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't define, it doesn't.
Okay, now, we're talking about something other than the definition.
Yeah, I can explain it to you, I can explain it to you in a different setting. I mean, I can,
And if you're interested in
Yeah.
it, no,
please call me.
I'm interested in it.
put forth the application, and it will be considered, which it was previously. It was before planning commission, it was before city council, and because it was in an R1 residence, it was not approved. But there are other locations, but where it can be located. Okay, I think we've completed sufficient public discussion. I'd like to ask that we adopt. Okay. Closed hearing at 8:27. Thank you. We have before us ordinance 439, and I'd like to have a motion that we adopt it, or not adopt it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 439, amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.09, definition of the Angels Municipal Code introduced February 2nd, 2010.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made by Morris, by Downey, seconded by Morris. We adopt ordinance 439. I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, that passes 5-0. Move now to number 12.
That wasn't too contentious.
No, that's all right. This is what Gary promised us, didn't you, Gary?
What? Problems?
We ain't seen nothing yet.
That's tip of the ice cube.
Okay. Next item in front of us is ordinance number 443, having to do with amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.12, definitions of zoning districts, maps, symbols, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you again tonight is are the different zone districts that the general plan called out as part of as part of the general plan. I have them listed again up here. Currently, the zoning, as the attachment I showed you, though all of the zone districts that are included in your attachments, that's all the city has right now in terms of regulating zoning in the city. This list, this plethora of zone districts need to be added to that list to make sure that all of our zone districts have development standards and that are consistent with the general plan, because we've added some new general plan land use designations, like special planning and business attraction and expansion and that. So that's why you have this full list of new and improved zone districts that will go with the old ones that you have. So staff is recommending that you adopt ordinance number 443, approving the amendments to Title 17.12010 zoning districts. And
Okay, any questions for
Hey,
David?
yeah. Why do we have an R1 and an R1 GHC?
because Greenhorn Creek was a planned
Special
development, was a planned development, and under that, it had different zoning regulations that it did in the R1. So by calling that out, now it falls under its own zoning district, per se, in an essence. I mean, it has ours, but because it was a planned development, it's allowed to massage the R1 zone districts for special purposes. And so by doing that, that's why you have a GHC R1, which is Greenhorn Creek R1.
Massage,
Well, I shouldn't say massage, but it allows for, let's see, maybe a higher density. Maybe allowed for a less density, i.e. like for example, let's see what's an
anything
example.
beyond what the special planning initially called for.
Or the R1, anything above.
Well, or the R1 is
Right.
obvious, but
Right.
it's the other part, because there was some higher density allowed in that development
Yeah.
when it came on. Is there anything that goes beyond that? You see, I've never seen this designation GHC.
Gets into some of the setbacks.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, most of it has to do with the setbacks in terms of the lot coverage and setbacks and allowing for.
Those lots are called out in the public reports for each unit.
Yeah. So it's mainly the setbacks but.
I'm just a little
but-
sensitive because of the issues
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
no.
here before.
No, but because the council allowed for, because right now in a rear yard setback, a standard R1 lot has a 20-foot setback in the rear yard. But in Greenhorn Creek, there was a 10-foot rear setback. That's a deviation from the R1 zone district. And so because that was done throughout that whole area, they included it in planned development. And so their R1 zoning is different than what the city's is. So that's why it spelled out GHC R1 because of those. And it's been all approved, and it's like when
There's
new
a-
development,
There's a resolution in their
Yeah,
ordinance
new
that call
lot.
out those areas.
yeah, when new lots come in certain areas, I've got to go to the table to make sure that, what their rear yard, what their side yard is based on that. So,
Just one other last question. Visitor serving commercial district? That's new.
well, all of these are new.
Well, okay, yeah, I mean, you do a nice job confusing us so we don't stay on top of things. That's a real nice strength. But what is this unique one?
Visitor serving, that is,
Yogurt shop.
no. Basically, it's, in terms of visitor serving, as part of the, it could be that, it could be under, and I think that's under the business attraction and expansion.
Well, does the animal exist now?
No, no. it
And where
doesn't.
would this animal reside?
Most likely in either the special planning, land use designation, or the business attraction and expansion.
Is this job security you guys put together or something?
Look,
Actually, that was something
I
that your
cannot-
previous folks
Yeah.
wanted in there.
yeah, that's,
It was to promote economic development.
yeah.
Where are we gonna do this?
Don't worry, I'll
At
have,
your house, Jack.
I'll have a place for you.
Holy cow, okay.
Don't want to miss those general plan meetings.
I have a question.
Sure.
Has this gone through the planning commission?
Yeah, and it was approved by the planning commission.
There's no
as-
reference to that here. but it's-
Well, there was in the original report that I submitted. The planning commission approved it probably as February, I'd say at their January meeting.
But
Their January
it
10th.
was approved
Oh, yeah.
unanimously,
Yes, it was.
recommended?
Well, in actuality, you approved it when you adopted the general plan.
No, but I mean,
Yeah, it
but
was.
it was reviewed and is coming to us from the planning commission.
Yeah. And this is the second reading and adoption, so yeah.
Good. Public comment, let's open it up to public comment now. Any public comment on
We'd like help in defining these things.
443?
Yeah.
No public comment. We'll close the public comment period. Bring it up here. Final questions on adopting ordinance 443?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 443, amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.12, zoning districts of the Angels Municipal Code, introduced February 2nd, 2010.
I think I'll just second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Turco and seconded by voting that we adopt ordinance number 443. The call for vote, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. And that's adopted. Move now to item number 13, having to do with ordinance 444, amending Title 15, having to do with signs, billboards, temporary signs. Any questions? David, do you have any comments?
Just want to let the council know, this is our second reading and adoption, and the staff is recommending that you approve the ordinance for temporary signs to amend.
That's all this encountered, temporary signs, right?
Temporary signs.
Okay.
And that doesn't include sandwich signs, right? Because those aren't allowed?
Well, we haven't, there are, it's part of the, yeah, it's part of the sign ordinance, we will be addressing those signs.
Okay.
And then,
Just asking.
but what will happen is when we address those, then it will kick in some of the temporary sign, it'll kick in some of the temporary sign codes.
Okay.
So, open up for public hearing. Any questions, comments on temporary signs, modification of ordinance amending chapter 1512? We'll close the public hearing, bring it up here, and any final questions? I'd like to have a motion to adopt it.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 444, amending Title 15, Chapter 15.12, signs and billboards, Section 15.12.210, temporary signs of the Angel Municipal Code, introduced February 2nd, 2010.
Second?
I'll second.
Your second?
I'll second. And a third, right?
Yeah, cool.
Motion's been made by Morris and seconded by Turco that we adopt ordinance number 444. Like to call for vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, that carries 5-0-0. Item number 14 on our agenda is ordinance number 445, amending Title 2, Chapter 2.08 of the municipal code, having to do with the city administrators, job description. And 4 sections of it are being modified. It's not complete, but there's 4 sections being modified.
Yep.
Richard Matranga.
Thank you, Mayor. I really didn't have too much to do with this one, but in looking at one of the sections under performance evaluations of personnel, council may want to consider clarifying whether the city administrator will have hiring and firing authority under at least the rank and file employees as opposed to department heads. I don't know whether that was discussed committee or not, but I think there's a bit of a holdout about that being addressed.
You know, you bring up a good point because it's not consistent with the policies and procedures that we have, so, and since I was somewhat the author of revising this, I wouldn't mind going back, if it's the council's pleasure, of continuing to add some language, or we could add it tonight, but, for consideration.
I think you extended things for a month, practically speaking, with respect to
I think
administrators, so I I'd be happy to bring back something or help you with the language of that.
And we talked about being consistent with policies, and we're, as a matter of fact, it's a movement that we're doing the personal finance update, some of these outdated things, so this would tie in with that, so.
Specifically, what section would you be adding some language to, Richard?
It's section 2.08.070 under personnel. And it addresses the performance evaluations that will be performed by the administrator. I'm suggesting and advising that it include the authority of the administrator, whatever he decided is, with respect to hiring and firing rank and file employees and department heads. That becomes a policy matter for you, whether you want the administrator to have the authority to just be able to terminate and hire rank and file employees, or you want to be given the authority to terminate department heads or any combination thereof.
What's the pleasure of the council then? To go back and go to personnel finance?
Go back to the drawing board.
Well, not the drawing board, just
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
addition.
So, Richard, could you give some language then to personnel and finance?
Well, how about if we do it the other way around, and I'll let you take a look at it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, okay, all right. Because.
If that's okay with the
Yeah.
council.
That is okay, because I do believe that there are sections, as I remember, 2.08, that do discuss that, hiring and firing. And this has to do with performance evaluation, but there is language there, but personnel finance center is going to look at it at the next meeting.
Well, or we can put it together, and Richard can take a look at it,
Okay.
and give it to you folks for review for the next
Well,
city council.
let's
We
move
can
this-
expedite that.
Let's move that along then, if you,
Tomorrow morning, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
next week, you want to be fine with me, but you guys are gonna do the work.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, it'd be Turco and Bodie will put together their thoughts, send it to you, you refine it, and we'll continue item number 14 to our next council meeting on the 16th. Is that acceptable? That will conclude our meeting tonight on schedule of agenda items. We'll now move to calendar. And Mary Kelly,
Okay, tomorrow is March 3rd, and at 6:30 is the COG meeting. March 4th is the LOD meeting at 2 o'clock at the Fireside Room in Greenwood Creek. Monday, the 8th, is AFA meeting at 5:30 at Camp's Restaurant. The 11th at 9 a.m. at the Firehouse will be the preliminary budget hearing. At 5 p.m. at the Firehouse is the traffic circulation. 6 p.m. at the Firehouse is planning commission. 14th is daylight savings time.
Oh, I thought it was another holiday for you.
Yeah, another day off.
Oh, it's a Sunday, you can have
I'm
that.
sorry, that'd be the 16th. No.
losing an hour of sleep that
Yes, you will.
spring ahead.
And the 15th at 6 p.m. is LAFCO. And we have the 16th, I believe we have another closed session, but that'll be done. So 5 o'clock or something. No, we're going to meet with workshop for public planning commission on the 16th. I don't know what time.
Just one quick thing there. On the 11th, if you have some ideas for that meeting, for the preliminary budget, could you please pass them on to me, and I'll pass them on to Melissa, because two of us will put an agenda together for that.
Now, if we have a conflict, I'm not sure I do, but
Or let us know, let Mary know if the 11th is going to be a conflict, because this is important that we all
yeah,
can
no, I
make.
agree, I agree.
Okay?
Meeting adjourned at, let's see, 8:43.
As soon as you know, somebody will.
Yeah, Matt.
Richard, if you had something to learn, I have a problem with it. I mean,
One of these, I made some comments about
you okay?
I think I'm okay. I'll make sure at home, I'll look at my other calendar.
All right. Well, whenever, you know, if we have to change something, it is.
Actually, that's draining from my leg.
I heard the rain, I don't know if it's still raining. Sorry.
I believe it.
Yeah, but you're such a bad guy.
It's, when you start playing people's property,